Hello and welcome to my first ever sewing pattern tutorial video. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the instructions on how to make this garment duffel bag. As the name states, this is a garment bag that then zips up to be a duffel bag. It provides ample room for overpacking. The measurements are also suitable for a carry-on, and I would put the skill level of sewing this pattern at an adventurous beginner. If you know how to sew a zipper, maybe understand how a lining works, I think you can execute this bag beautifully. You can purchase this pattern from my Etsy shop, which I will leave the link for below in the description. Now let's get started by choosing some fabric. For this pattern, you will need 1.5 yards of 44-inch wide fabric or 1 yard of 60-inch wide fabric. And that is for the main bag. For the lining fabric, you will need 1 3/4 yard of 44-inch wide fabric. At this point, I've made 3 of these bags. The first one, I used a cutter quilt, a quilt that was so damaged that it was going to a landfill. The second one, I used a thrifted tablecloth, and the third one, that is shown here, I used some heavyweight canvas. For the linings, I have used 2 types of thrifted silky polyester and 1 very lucky thrifted silk. You can find a page full of fabric recommendations in the pattern instructions. If needed, you can use the cutting layout found in the pattern instructions. This will give you an idea on how to lay out your pattern pieces to get the most use out of your fabric. So here are the notions for this project. I already showed you my main fabric and my lining fabric. Here is my 28-inch zipper. I'm actually using a 30-inch zipper, and this is one of the only zippers that it's okay to change the size on, and I would recommend sizing up in the length before sizing down, just so it's easier to get your clothes into the garment style bag. The next one is my separating zipper, 22-inch separating zipper. This one is pretty specific and must be a separating zipper for the bag to function properly. Here's my 14-inch zippers. These, I do need 4 of them. They sold out. These were the last 2. So my other 2 are on order, but we're going to go right along with this. You won't even notice it. And these do need to be 14 inches. Here is the webbing for my straps. I've got my 1-inch elastic. I have bias tape because I'm going to finish my inside seams that way. And this here is optional, but I do recommend it. It is basically one of these fashion fit clips, and I cut it in half. This gets sewn in at the bottom, and then you can clip the bottom of your clothes in here to hold it in place, because that bottom part of the garment bag then folds up to be the top of your duffel bag. So you want your clothes to be able to come up and around. And those are the notions. I just real quickly want to talk about this pattern piece here, piece number 2. If you choose the copy shop file and print only page 2, piece 2 is what you will use to create your piece 1, and you will not have to print that massive page. Also, for the print at home, I have excluded piece 1 because it was so many pages of mostly blank space, and you can easily create it from piece 2. So piece 2, you cut out on the solid line here, and then piece 1, you will fold back that extra seam allowance here and place it on the fold of your fabric, 1 of lining and 1 of main fabric. And yes, so that's the fold, and you would just cut around here. Now for printing this and cutting piece 2, I would recommend you cut out up like this, and then make 1 cut diagonal from the corner in to the curved line, and then you can fold that piece back when you're cutting piece 2, and then unfold what you folded out, and then it should be a rectangle shape again, and it'll be easier to cut piece 1 that way. I hope that helps and is not more confusing. One last thing about this piece, these markings here, they're all labeled. And this one is, you can see on the dashed line and on the dashed line. So those pieces labeled or on the dashed line rather than the solid line are for the main bag piece, not for piece 2, and they're labeled as that. So be sure to mark them. We are going to start by taking your pocket piece, your outer pocket piece, and folding the top edge in by 1/4 inch, and you'll press that down, and then we're going to fold it again by this time 1 full inch and press that down. So here we go. Now I'm going to sew this piece right along that folded edge. Now back to the ironing board, I'm going to press in all of these edges by 1/4 inch. Now that my edges are folded in, I'm going to place my pocket on top of my main bag piece with the right side of the main bag facing up and the wrong side of my pocket facing down. You're going to line up the top edge of the pocket with the markings for the straps from the pattern piece. And then I'm just going to pin this in place before sewing it down. I just cut my webbing strap to 136 inches, and now I'm going to sew these two end pieces together. But first I want to make sure that the strap is not twisted when I sew those ends together. Now I'm going to find the other center point of my strap by taking this piece we've sewn together and lining up the strap. So the two straps are lined up together, and I'm just going to keep them equal and slide all the way to the other end of the strap and just mark it with a clip. I just wanted to clarify here because I wasn't filming the first time. Here is my seam, and that I have lined up with the center notch of the main bag. And then this is the point I followed along the strap to find the other center point, and I had the clip here, and I lined that up with the center notch on the bag, the main bag here, and then I just lined up the strap 3 inches away from the edge all the way along up to here. I'm going to sew just very close to this edge here in matching thread, so it should hardly be noticeable. Here's my marking for my strap. I sewed up, across, down, across, and then diagonal. So then you have 2 stitching lines up here. You come across, and then you go diagonal again, and then stitch the other side of your strap close to the edge all the way. And if you do that stitching order for this box, you will have 2 stitching lines reinforcing the top, and then it'll place you back on the other side to finish the other side of your strap. Real quickly, I want to point out something about sewing the straps. If you are using fabric straps, or your main fabric is on the weaker side. I mean, this is a hefty canvas, so I'm not too worried about it, but something that can't handle a lot of weight on it, I highly recommend, as it is stated in the instructions, to add some reinforcement here. That can be a stronger piece of fabric, that can be fusible interfacing. Just add something of strength so that when you are carrying your bag, this part here, even though I did sew 2 stitching lines on it, you want to make sure this part here, your fabric, is very strong because it has got quite a load bearing on it. So that is my recommendation, to reinforce some weaker fabric. Like I said, this is quite a hefty canvas and I am not worried about it here, especially with the webbing for straps rather than fabric. Just a quick tip. Going over to the zip up lining piece, my marking is here, so I'm supposed to sew from the bottom here. Since I decided to use a longer zipper, that line is no longer accurate for me. So I'm going to measure where my new line is going to be. So I want to line up my zipper at the top of the zip up lining piece. Follow it all the way down. This is somewhat of a rough measurement just because if I sew too far up, I can seam rip or make adjustments that way. So let's see, the previous marking is here, and that looks right, just about 2 inches below that marking, since this zipper is 2 inches longer. This is going to be my new marking here. I'm just going to use a disappearing ink pen with the pen cap in my mouth, if you can't tell, to mark my new spot. So I'm going to sew right sides together. Right now these are wrong sides together, so I'll flip them. Yeah, just 2 inches lower from the bottom up. I'm going to flip them now so that we don't get confused. Right sides together. Right sides together. Right sides are together. Right sides together. Right sides together. Right sides together. Okay. Using a 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance, I'm going to sew from the bottom to my new marking. Now I'm first going to lower my iron setting, turn off steam. Since my lining is not a heavyweight cotton canvas, it is a silk that I thrifted. So silk needs a lower temperature. I think a lot of linings may need a lower temperature unless you're using cotton, maybe some sort of upcycled bed sheet. Just don't forget to change your temperature on your iron. Now I'm going to press this seam open. I cut these pieces on the selvage, so there's no finishing needed. So here is my zip up lining piece with the right side facing up. You can see this is the right side. There's no seam edge there. Here is my zipper. So I find it easier to unzip the zipper. So here's your zipper pull. I'm going to turn my right side of the zipper pull, facing down. Straighten those out. And then I'm going to put this from the wrong side. This is the right side, right hand side. From the wrong side of the zipper, this would be your right hand side. I'm going to match that up with my left piece here, with my right side facing up, right side of the fabric facing up. This would be on the left hand side. And I'm just going to line up my zippers with the top of the zip up lining piece. So I'm going to start clipping this in place. All the way to the end here. Now I'm going to go sew this down. Here are my 2 zip up lining pieces with right sides facing up. Here's the zipper side we just sewed down. I'm going to turn this piece right side facing down and cross over. So this piece here is still right side facing up. This zipper, you can see here by the zipper pull being the wrong side. So this is right side facing down. Here is the wrong side of the zipper we just sewed in place. And I'm going to line up this piece that is still right side facing up, that we did not move. I'm going to line up the zipper right side facing down on top. Grab my pins. Okay, and I'm going to go sew this in just the same way we did the other side of the zipper. Now I have right side facing up, and I am just going to top stitch along here, pulling all this excess fabric out of the way. That way when you use this zipper, you don't get this lining caught in your zipper. So now I have my zip up lining piece right side down. I am going to fold this raw edge, this curved edge, only the curved edge in, by a 1/4 inch and press, and then another 1/4 inch and press. Now our hems are clipped in place. I'm going to go sew this very close to the edge. I've just cut my elastic to 23 inches long, and now I'm going to take my zip up lining, flip it to the wrong side, and line up my elastic with the notch that disappeared. So my notch disappeared because I used air-soluble ink on accident, but it is supposed to be 6 inches up. So since I have my grid here, I'm just going to measure 6 inches up. 6 inches up is right here. And I'm going to pin that in place. 6 inches up right here. Clip. Now we're going to go sew these in place just with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, so that would be inside of our main seam allowance, just so the stitch that just holds it in place. Okay, I just sewed these in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and you will stitch a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and that stitch will just be hidden in the seam allowance. But now I'm going to do the same thing with this clip here. Center it at the bottom, clip it, and do a 1/4 inch seam allowance again. Next thing we want to do is take the flap and fold it wrong sides together. And if you just fold it in half, this will line up perfectly. This is the fold edge that I marked. And right there, that's the fold edge. It's basically just the center line of this pattern piece. Where you are to fold it by. And press that in place. The next thing I'm going to do is take my hanger loop and just finish one edge, one long edge. Now that I have one long finished edge of my hanger loop, I am going to fold the wrong side in, the raw edge, the raw long edge of the wrong to the wrong sides, and press it in place. And then I'm going to take my serged edge and fold that over the raw edge. So I've got the finished edge. If I unfold it, this is the wrong side in here. I've got the raw edge folded 3/4 of the way across, and then the finished edge folded on top of that 3/4 of the way across. Now I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and stitch 2 parallel lines along the edge here just to hold everything in place. Now I'm going to place the bag. Place the main bag right side facing up in the 22 inch separating zipper right side facing down. So the side with the zipper pull is going to be facing down right sides together with the main bag. I'm going to position the zipper stop and the end of the zipper 3/8 inch away from the raw edge, and then line up this top edge with the edge of the zipper here. I'm going to pin that in place. Now see, I have about a 3/8 inch gap here and a 3/8 inch gap here, and I'm going to sew all the way across. Okay, now this part gets a little bit tricky. I have my zipper sewn down just to the main, and then that is facing right side up. The main bag is facing right side up, zipper sewn down, right side facing down. I am going to take the flap that I've folded in half, pressed in half, so the wrong side is in here, right side and right side. Line that up here. I'm just going to kind of stagger it so you can continue to see what I'm doing here. My loop will go next, and I will pin that down here. And I want to take my zip up lining and put that right side facing down. You can see this is the wrong side here. And then I am going to take my main lining and place it right side facing down. So I know that with this fabric it's really hard to tell, but this is right side facing down, wrong side up. So we have our main bag right side facing up, our flap, which is right side facing up on both sides, our zip up lining right side facing down, and our hanger loop right side facing down, main bag lining right side facing down. I'm going to line up the raw edges here and clip them in place, each piece in place. And we're going to sew 3/8 inch seam allowance all the way across. Next, I flip everything behind. You've got the flap, zip up lining, the loop, the hanger loop, and the main bag lining. And I am going to push all of that fabric away and top stitch along the edge of this folded fabric here. So we have one side of the zipper sewn in and top stitched down. Before I move on to the other side of the zipper, I'm going to show you how to make the markings and put in the little slot for the structured bottom. So we're going to find that, that center main bag marking, and we're going to measure 6 inches in either direction. Here's 6 inches. I'm going to make a mark. 6 inches here. And do the same on the other side. I'm going to mark 6 inches. And 6 inches. Now I have those markings 6 inches above and 6 inches below both of my center marks on the main bag. I'm just going to draw a straight line between both of those marks. Right there, looks good. So those are my stitching lines. Before I make any stitches, anything else, I am now going to line up. See how these inside pieces got all crazy in here? I'm going to make sure that my main bag lining and my main bag and my main fabric are lined up perfectly. And I'm going to flip the flap and loop and zip up lining out of the way. So flap and loop and zip up lining moving out of the way. So I only have my 2 main bag pieces, my main bag and main fabric, and my main bag lining fabric. And I'm going to line those up. So here's my center mark on my lining. And I'm going to clip that to my center mark on my main. And now we're gonna sew straight across here. Now that I have sewn across just the main bag and the lining, I am going to cut a section out of the lining only and finish that edge so that I can make my structured insert removable. So I'm going to measure 2 inches from my stitching line on both sides, and then 2 inches in from the edge. And I'm just going to connect this, and I'm going to cut along that line. So 2 inches in, 2 inches in, and then all the way across. Now I'm going to take this to my serger and finish this raw edge. You could also use bias tape if you really wanted to, or a zigzag stitch. Okay, now that that is done, we are going to bring the unsewn right side of the zipper, so that would be this right here, the unsewn right side of the zipper, forward and down to the opposite end right side of the main bag. And you can separate this to make it a bit easier. Right side down onto right side of the other end of the main bag. I am going to pin this or clip this in place only to the main bag piece, not to any of these lining pieces. Okay, so I have got right sides together, zipper pinned on only the main bag, main fabric, and I am going to sew that in place. So here's the side of the zipper that I just sewed down, and I am going to flip up the zip up lining. So the zip up lining where we have sewn the clip, that's going to get layered right side down. Main bag lining, and we're going to put that right side facing down. And I'm going to match up these edges and pin them, and then sew through all layers following this stitching line we just did. Okay, now I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and sew over this red line here. Okay, here's the line we just sewed through all layers with the zipper sandwiched in there. And now I'm just going to pull the bag out of its little burrito pouch. Straighten her out, and there we are. And now I'm going to push all this fabric out of the way of the zipper and top stitch along this folded edge just like we did on the other side. Okay, now the other end of the bag has been top stitched, and it looks like this. Now I'm going to take my side bag pieces. This is my main fabric with the wrong side facing up. I know you can't really tell, but I want to make sure you know in case you have a printed fabric, wrong side facing up. And then I'm going to place my lining fabric right side facing up. I know, again, it's hard to tell. But this is the right side facing up, wrong side facing up. So wrong sides together. I'm matching this notch here. I'm going to pin it in place. And of course, same for the other piece. And then I'm going to pin around the curved edges to finish them together. Now with my main bag laying face up, my goodness, this silk is crazy. Can't wait to finish this edge. With my main bag laying face up, I'm going to take one of my side bag pieces and lay it right sides together, so right sides down. But first, I'm actually going to make sure the edge of all my lining pieces are aligned with this. So I want my main bag lining and my zip up lining and my flap to all be aligned here on the raw edge. You can even baste that into place before sewing this part if you would like. I'm just going to do that real quick with some clips. So now that I have that pinned all the way across, I am going to sew the side bag right side facing to right side. I'm going to sew this together with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, and then I am going to finish the entire edge of the bag zipper to zipper. You can use a serger, a zigzag stitch. I am going to use some more bias binding. So here I have my finished edge, and I'm lining up the first of 4 zippers. I've positioned the zipper stop just at the stitching line of that red main zipper for the bag, and I'm lining up the edge of my binding with the edge of the zipper, right side zipper facing the right side of the main bag, main fabric. And I'm going to pin that all the way to the edge and stitch with a 3/8 seam allowance. Repeat this for all 4 of the zippers. Now I'm going to unzip that zipper so that I can have the unsewn side free, and I can line up the top zipper stop with the center point on my side bag piece and then stitch. Now I'm going to sew all the way around, and then I'm going to repeat this for all 4 zippers. 1, 2, and the other side has 1, 2 on both sides. Notice at the bottom of the bag how I pulled the zipper up to be able to sew that bottom corner a little easier. And then the last thing we need to do is top stitch. So the same thing as we've top stitched all these zippers. We're going to pull this fabric away from the zipper and then top stitch next to the fabric's folded edge, and repeat that for all sides. I just wanted to note that when you do top stitch this side bag rounded edge, you can do it in one stitching line, so that you don't have a back stitch and repeat. Also, if you are going towards the bulky end, it is easier to get down to that, corner line. And yeah, once you top stitch all 4 zippers, you are done. And I just want to show the junction here, so the zippers meet right at that center marking line. So here's that zipper junction. We've got the zipper and for the main zipper, and then these side zippers, those line up and meet perfectly. I can't even get my pinky in there, so it is a closed up bag. There you have your garment duffel bag. And when my other zippers come in, I will show the real deal. Thank you for watching my first sewing pattern tutorial video. I appreciate everyone for watching this video, whether you bought the sewing pattern and it's helping you with the instructions, or if you're thinking about the pattern. Either way, I'm happy you're here. Thank you for bearing with me on my first instruction video. Clearly, it is quite a learning curve for me to make a video, and if you still have any questions on the pattern, please feel free to send me an email or a direct message. I will leave my email, a link to my social media where you can send me a DM if you have any questions. If you have made this bag as you watch the video, I am so happy for you, and I would love to see what you created. I would love to see your version. Please tag me or use the hashtag. I will follow the hashtag so I see everyone who uses the hashtag. I'd love to see what you made from this pattern, and I'd love to see what trip you take it on. And if you don't have a trip, go plan a trip or pack a bag for fun and enjoy it. I'm very proud of this bag, and I hope that the sewing pattern helped you and the instructions help you, and this video was possibly helpful. Thank you again for watching, and stay tuned for more patterns coming soon.